Okay, hello everyone that is joining us from the waiting room. I'm sorry if you felt like you were stuck there for a little bit longer than you might have expected. We had a few technical issues that's to be expected with a brand new event that is being run completely on Zoom. So welcome to this session. For those of you who have been in the other sessions, thanks for staying with us. For those of you that are new, welcome to the ANLISTer Summit. A particularly warm welcome to Shirley and Dan, who are joining us here from the West Yorkshire Archive Service. As a reminder, this session is being recorded and will be available after the session. And at that stage, there will be closed captions available. I'm sorry, they're not working right now, but they hopefully will be for other events. So some of you may not know me. I might be a new face. My name's Alex Price. I have a research background. I work in a university, so I know my way around an archive. But I'm not a transcriber myself, and I've not actually ever used the ANLISTer archive. So this will be new to me as well. I'm sure in the audience we have a range of different levels of experience, from those who have made special trips to Halifax, people who might be using it semi-regularly, and also those who are interested but have never looked at the collection themselves. So we're going to take some, I'm going to put some questions to Dan and Shirley. They also have some things to show us today, which is going to be great. And then I'm going to take questions at the end. I can see there's quite a lot of you. So I'm going to take questions at the end, and we should hopefully have about 10 minutes for that. Just to note, also, if your questions are about the transcription project in particular, which obviously we'll find out a bit more about in this session, but primarily those will be held over for the code breaker section, which is happening immediately after this in about 1 hour's time. So first of all, Dan and Shirley, hello. Who are you, and what does your role at the West Yorkshire Archive Service involve?
Dan, shall I let you go first?
Thanks, Shirley. Yes, yeah. Hi, it's great to join you all. I'm Dan Sudron. I'm the archivist at the Calderdale office of the West Yorkshire Archive Service, where we hold ANLISTer's diaries as part of the Lister family and estate collection. And I'll pass over to Shirley.
Hi, I'm Shirley Jones. I'm Head of Conservation at West Yorkshire Archive Service. So this means I look after all the collections at West Yorkshire Archive Service, including those under Dan's remit at Calderdale. And that includes, of course, the Shibden Hall collections, which includes the ANLISTer diaries, which you're all very excited to hear about. So we had the pleasure of working on the ANLISTer collection in tandem with the digitisation project, which happened a couple of years ago now, so that it could be brought to your screen in the form of Gentleman Jack and onto our online catalogue and transcribed by many of you, I'm sure, and just brought to a worldwide audience. So it's been fantastic to be involved, and we're really we love it that everybody's interested in the conservation side of it as well. That's a real treat for us. Not used to being so interesting to everybody.
I think you'll find in this audience you're both celebrities, so enjoy it. This question's to Dan. Obviously there is a lot of focus on the diaries. What else do you have in the collection that relates to ANLISTer and Shibden Hall that we might be interested in?
Yes, let me just yeah, I can give you kind of a bit of an introduction to the collection using kind of a few shared images. Both we can start with a little bit of a show and tell on some of the images of Anne's records, but then also go on to a little bit more about the wider collection as well. So we'll start, as I say, with a quick show and tell. So if I just start by, I'll share some images with you. Right, so hopefully that's now popped up for you.
Yep. That's good to me.
Yeah, great. So if you've seen our anniversary video from Tuesday, you may recognise many of these images. I looked at playing the video, but it wasn't quite playing as I hoped. But as it gives an overview of Anne and some of her archives, I thought we could look at them as stills, which will allow me to say one or two other things as we go and introduce what those images are. So Anne is, of course, well known as a diarist, and that's often what we like to start with when we're showing images of her records. The image on the left there is the first page of Anne's diaries from 1806, and the line that started the diary writing, Eliza left us. Recording her diary became what you can really call an obsession, and by the time of the last page in 1840, which you can see at the bottom there, Anne has written an amazing 5 million words and left us with a truly remarkable written legacy. Anne became the owner of Shibden Hall after the death of her uncle, who left the estate to her. And we've got here one of the plans on the left, which was created for Anne for her redesign of Shibden Hall by the architect John Harper. And the map of Shibden Hall estate on the right is actually from 1791, which is of course the year that Anne was born. And at that point, it was the property of James Lister, her uncle. Anne was a prolific letter writer, and the collection includes a fantastic series of Anne's correspondence. This example is one I really like. It's a beautiful cross-written letter from 1824. It's also the letter in which Anne says, "I am an enigma even to myself and do excite my own curiosity." The folded letter there, which effectively creates its own envelope, is from Jeremiah Rawson, who wants to meet to talk about coal matters in 1832. That's the same period of the Gentleman Jack drama, and the Rawsons actually appear quite significantly in the drama. Anne loved to travel, and here we have Anne's map of the Pyrenees, and the document on the right is actually a passport that Anne Lister and Anne Walker used while travelling across Europe in 1834. It's actually only about half the length of the document that we can see on the screen there. It's quite a long document, includes many stamps and notes as they travelled. Significantly, Anne was always looked to understand and be involved with any business which affects the Shibden estate, and the beautiful marbled cover is one of Anne's books of letters of the broad for her broad interests in businesses. And I didn't feel I could have a business without something relating to coal, so that is the wheel of a steam engine for bringing up coal as an example of something you might not automatically think of when thinking about the collection. And of course, one of the really important things recorded in Anne's diaries and her letters is her relationships with other women. We've got highlighted in the quote in the diary on the left there, the quote, "I love and only love the fairer sex." And on the right is a letter from Eliza Rain, Anne's first love, the letters from 1808. And in the middle there is a pressed flower in Anne's diaries that she put there during her travels. And of course, Anne as an inspiration. The portrait out there, I'm sure many of you have seen many times, is one of only a few portraits that we have of Anne. As well as those details that relate specifically to Anne, I thought I'd share a little bit more about a few screenshots of the online catalogue, which would help to introduce the collection, how it's laid out and what you might expect to find. This is the collection level description for the collection, and hopefully it's not too small for you to on the screen, but I'll just talk through a few bits. As you can hopefully see, the collection itself is the Lister family of Shibden Hall family and estate collection. The dates for the collection it covers is the 13th century right up to John Lister's death in 1933 as the last member of the Lister family to live at Shibden Hall. You can see the extent of the collection, which is 264 boxes of records, or the 6.6 is actually 6.6 cubic meters. So it really is an extensive collection. And the collection is split into really 7 sections. The section 1, which is the estate records relating to individual Lister properties, and that mainly consists of deeds for those properties, including Shibden Hall, and are some of the oldest items within the collection. SH2 are the records relating to the whole of the estate, including estate accounts, rentals, leases, and valuations. They're things that relate to the running of the estate and who lived and rented parts of the land. There are also the plans for the alterations of Shibden Hall, which we saw a moment ago, and also records relating to mining on the estate. The SH3 is family papers, and that includes things like personal legal papers, funerals, personal accounts, and household papers. SH4 is local deeds for non-lister properties. So these will be deeds in which the listers had an interest but didn't actually own the properties. The SH5 is non-Yorkshire deeds. Like many landed families, the listers acquired properties in other places through marriage to other families. So these include properties in places like Buckinghamshire, Cambridge, London, and other places too. SH6 is abstracts and transcripts from the local deeds and rentals and surveys. These tend to be records of things that members of the family, lister family, were interested in or involved with, and cover a wide range of topics from Wakefield Court, manor rolls, court cases, and the woolen trade. But SH7 is probably the section that most people interested in Anne will be aware of. It's the papers of individual members of the lister family. As well as Anne, there are papers from other members of the Lister family, such as her father, Captain Jeremy Lister, who also appears in the Gentleman Jack drama, and we have a memoir of his time serving in the in America during the War of Independence, and you can hear the characters in the drama referring to that. On our online catalogue, it allows you to do keyword searches, but also to browse the collection. And I've opened up the browser at the lister and lister section, so hopefully you can see some of the large selection of correspondence that will be listed in there. That's letters between Anne and her family and friends, letters relating to the Lister family arms with the College of Arms. There's business letters, and also kept other records, such as her school records and notes of her reading and learning, and extracts from books and lecture notes, really things about her own education and self-guided learning. Her personal accounts and day books for the household, but also for her travels. And of course, very importantly, you can see Anne's amazing diaries are included. And I've got a screenshot of an example of an entry for a page of Anne's diaries. So if you haven't seen them before, you can have a quick look. You can see the finding number. This is actually from volume 5, and the date, which is April 1821 for this one. As the transcription project continues, we'll add keyword searchable transcripts to the page here as well, and a PDF version of the full diaries transcript will be available on the volume level entry. We haven't got that for this volume just yet. And you can also see the thumbnail on the page image. And if you click on that, you can then get the larger full-sized image, which you can also zoom into. And this is got a nice selection of plain hand and crypt hand on here. For those wanting to find out more about the records, we do have also an online Anne Lister exhibition, which includes a page on how you can read Anne's diaries on our online catalogue. I should say that only the diaries and travel journals are available to view on our online catalogue as digital images. For other papers, you can see the detailed descriptions, and if you make contact with us, we can help you to access any of those records. We can make things available in our search room, and we can often can help by providing a remote copying service. So I hope this gives a useful quick overview of the collection for an idea of the types of records you might be able to find for Anne, as well as the wider Lister family and Shibden estates.
Yeah, that's been really great, Dan. And actually, I can see that Shirley's been answering some questions already in the chat. So we did have a question in the previous session, which was what about the archives. What do those numbers mean? So it's really great to actually know that what each kind of section of the number refers to. So coming to Shirley, 264 boxes is quite a lot of material.
Yes.
As head of conservation for something actually that is now incredibly popular, what are the challenges when dealing with papers in that kind of Anne Lister section?
So as Dan has eloquently described, the diaries are just a small proportion. Some of you might know that the Calderdale Archives moved to a new building quite recently, back in 2016 it was, and the diaries and the Shibden Hall collection are kept in a state-of-the-art strong room. It's got whizzy electronic shelving that works all the time, doesn't it? Don't they, Dan? And it's climate controlled, so what we do is we monitor the conditions in that store to make sure that the Shibden Hall collection and all the other collections are kept at the optimum temperature and conditions. And at Wakefield, at the West Yorkshire History Centre, where all the conservation work was carried out, we also have air handling and a new building. So the diaries have been, over the last 2 or 3 years, actually been spoiled really with some really fantastic storage. That's not always been the case. You'll know the tale of the diaries having been secreted behind wooden panelling where they were hidden for many years. And actually, although that doesn't sound like a very good place to keep archives, you know, it probably was the saving of them really. It was obviously reasonably dry, because Anne's diaries, apart from I think one of them which had suffered some damp or water damage, they're all in remarkably good condition, which is amazing. The letters, which some people are asking about, they are also in really good condition. So a lot of the time it's not necessarily the painstaking work that people think we do that's needed. It's quite often to do with packaging, checking the conditions, and just supervising handling and making sure things like reproduction and that kind of thing are all carried out according to, you know, professional guidelines and so on. So it's not all as exciting as you as you might think. You know, I've done a lot of hoovering out of strong rooms and dusting boxes and things like that. So it's not all glamorous, you know. So.
Although I must say I'm quite impressed to hear that you have these kind of climate controlled strong rooms, because I suppose in my mind I do think of libraries as being kind of, you know, dusty shelves that are about to fall.
Yes.
You said that you had some things that you wanted to share with us as well. Are they more about what you actually physically have done to some of the materials?
Yeah, so I probably should sum up. So the diaries, which number 24 principal volumes, as well as the travel journals, which I think there's 14 of, and the map. So Dan has also shown you the passport, and it's very long. It's probably as tall as Anne is the passport. So we worked on that because that was borrowed by, it wasn't Shibden Hall, was it? It was Bankfield Museum, I think, who did a fabulous exhibition on women travellers. So we conserve that for the exhibition. So that's something we quite often do. If something's on loan, we'll make sure it's stable. For Anne's collection, what we wanted to do was, although digitisation is a fantastic way of preserving material, making it available to this global audience, when people want to come and see the physical document itself, it's a shame if you're showing people something where the binding is disintegrated or you know, there's damage to the pages. So we worked on the whole collection that has been digitised. We did a bit of work before the digitisation, and the reason for that was, if I just show you a picture of the imaging, I better do a share screen, just find the picture.
I can see we have some fellow librarians and book conservators on the chat as well, so I'm sure they're going to love this bit as well.
Okay, so this is, I think this was Elliot. Can you see?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see. So this is Elliot, and he has got, I can't tell exactly what it is, but can you see the glass platen? For an optimum image, your document needs to be flat. There are different machines that enable you to do this kind of thing, but actually a lot of Anne's diaries, because the bindings were damaged, if I show you a picture of one of the damaged damages. So this is the condition a lot of the bindings were in. The paper was in the main in really good condition, but this is very typical of 19th century, just decrepitude of bindings. But actually, this is good for the digitization process, because it means that the broken bindings will lie flat under the glass. So we did a lot of stabilization work to the paper, but we didn't repair the bindings, and we did that after digitisation was completed. So actually the digital images that you see, you know, some of the things might not look in the good condition that they now are in. So that was the kind of damage that we had to contend with there. So this is some of the mould damage that was on one of the bindings, and spines falling off here. So they just, again, that's very typical of 19th century collections. I'm sure a lot of librarians and conservators recognise this kind of thing. So yes, nothing unusual about Anne in that respect, actually, but what's within them obviously is you know, quite amazing. So
the questions that we have here from Sue is, as 200-year-old non-archival paper, do you think that digitisation is the only way of preserving these in the long term?
Bizarrely, if I just find a picture of some of the paper, it's my colleague Jess there. So actually, paper that is 200 years old is more stable than a piece of paper you might buy now, or that is even 100 years old. The quality of the paper is superior because it is made from rags. They hadn't quite got to the stage of mechanised paper production when Anne was writing. So she used handmade paper in her journals, which is what she would have bought at the time, what the stationers' Whiteleys would have sold. So we buy paper like that to repair paper like hers. So it's very, very durable as long as it's kept in the right conditions. One problem it can have, actually, which is well illustrated in this picture, is in this particular image, Anne had a hefty crossing out of something. Who knows what that might have been. Because this was iron gall ink, this can be quite acidic, particularly in concentrated proportions, and it sort of really penetrates the surface of the paper, and over time it has a rusting effect. So what's happened here is it's created tiny holes, and they gradually sort of disintegrate. So Jess here is what we call consolidating this area, just so it's stabilised. So it's not going to bring it back, but it will help, you know, prevent the damage from, you know, increasing or from losing the text around it. But there's surprisingly little of that damage in Anne's diaries, so that it's testament to the quality of the paper, and you know, the ink she used as well was obviously good. It's made from oak galls. And it's sort of like a chemical reaction related to rusting, really.
And is there a difference, this isn't a question from the chat, this is just a question from me, but is there a difference between the way in which she wrote the diaries when she was kind of mainly perhaps in Shibden versus something like the travel journals where we know that they were on the journey with her?
Yeah, they're still in surprisingly good condition. I have a picture, if I just browse down here, of one of her travel diaries. They were smaller, so I imagine that meant, you know, they were easier to keep neat. But I still get I still think she did a certain amount of writing up. In this particular example, the cover had come off. Now, sellotape, that wouldn't have been what Anne did. That's what somebody's done later on. So what I did here was I took the spine off to enable me to sort of repair the cover effectively. So I'm just relining the spine here. Oops, missed a bit. So I'm giving it a new Japanese paper hinge, and I really love this this one here, actually. I don't know if I can make that bigger. I'd have to move you all over there. Let's see. So that is a lovely little sketch of, I think it says eyes back, so falls. So she was in Switzerland or Austria or somewhere. So she's got these little spontaneous, well, these little drawings throughout both her diaries and her travel diaries. In some of her travel diaries, there are pages cut out, and I presume that's by her. I don't know if Dan might have any more insight on that, but I don't know whether that might be because she made more rough notes and then wrote them up later. But she also used many loose pieces of paper for her note-taking, and we preserved those in, there we go. So these are a bit more, perhaps a bit more spontaneous. I mean, Dan has already shown you the one that is one of her first diary entries. So there's lots of bits of paper of random sizes. They're written this way, that way. There's a back of an envelope here. There's, we've even got one that's a bit like a hexagon. She's obviously chopped it out of something. So she's clearly compulsive in just making notes and jotting thoughts down whenever and wherever she could. But the travel diaries are still amazingly neat. I mean, they're a little bit more relaxed, but no, I'm just in awe of how neat and tidy her practice was. This is a good, if I come out. So this shows just the ephemera that you can see here. She's scribbling and writing bits this way and then that way. So you get a bit more of a sense of her on the hoof with these bits and pieces. I like those, and they're sort of tucked into the back of the diary. What we've done with those pieces is we've put them into albums so that they're secure. We did, this is the flower that Dan showed you, and that was tucked into the last book, I think. It's number 24. I don't know if it'll play. So we've taken that out. We were worried about it getting damaged, but we've recorded that we removed it. The imprint of the, if you look at the video that we've published this week, right at the end, you can see the imprint of the flower in the page. So that's all documented, but we've chosen to put the loose stuff in folders and albums so that they're safe. So whether she'd have approved or not, I hope so.
I mean, I think that's a sort of a wider question for both of you about whether Anne would have approved, because I think there's obviously something very personal about this, and I think I've heard that there's some evidence that she didn't intend the materials to be kept even. So I wondered kind of how you both felt. Obviously you are archivists, this is your job to make these things available. Does the kind of the cultural value of these outweigh any concerns that people might have about kind of, rooting around in someone's personal life and in personal business?
Dan, I don't know if you've got a comment you want to make on that.
Yes, yeah, and it really is an interesting question, because so we may never kind of really know what Anne's real thoughts are about us reading them, although it's who knows what the transcription project might bring to light on her comments about people reading her diaries. Anne clearly decided to make a permanent record of her life, although this was foremost for her own use. It was you've got the plain hand and you've got the code. Was the plain hand potentially thought of as something that people might be able to read, and perhaps the code something just that little bit more secure. She does appear to have decided to leave the records. She hasn't noted in her will for them to be destroyed. And later members of the family, John Lister, for instance, decided to publish part of the diaries within local newspapers. Although once he did learn kind of the secret of the code, he did decide at that point then to keep them secret, to hide them behind the panels. Although he was advised at that point to burn them, but fortunately he decided to keep them safe. So he obviously had an eye for the future there as well. Now, of course, in terms of kind of the looking at some of those issues, obviously the people who are mentioned in the diaries, the individuals who are kind of directly affected by the writing that's there, are no longer alive. So if you want to kind of talk about maybe the kind of the legal aspects of those of making information available, say, data protection kind of aspect isn't really there. But yes, as you say, I mean, the cultural value of these records is so important. They're incredibly important for the LGBTQ plus community, for gender studies, women's history. But yes, we are now in a position to be able to use her records and to make them available. But yes, we must continue to remember that we are talking about an individual's life. But of course, that's really what makes them such an incredible set of records, an incredible written legacy from Anne to be able to read in her own words.
Dan, someone has just asked whether the loose notes, I know we digitized them, but it's fallen out of my brain as to whether we have them online as yet.
Yes, the loose items should still be. They're usually added onto the end of each individual diary that they're found in. So yeah, they should be there.
Okay, and I'm going to kind of wrap up with my last question before I open the floor. So if you do have questions, now would be a good time to start thinking about it and maybe put your hand up. But I think my last question is, because obviously Anne Lister has come to mean something to everyone here. What does she mean to you? What's your kind of most preferred item from the collection? What's the thing that sums it all up for you?
Go on, Dan.
Yeah, I was going to say for me, it's not so much kind of an individual item, but I think I like so many people want to know the stories of people, kind of the social aspects rather than just kind of the wider recorded history. And I think things like Anne's diaries and other papers, which gives us those kind of personal insights into the lives of individuals, and in their own words, they can add so much to the mainstream history and can really resonate with us on a personal level. So it's kind of that aspect. So clearly I'd always kind of lean to the diaries, but yes, I'll pass over to Shirley.
Yeah, that's quite a difficult one. I do like the travel notebooks, partly because I worked on those ones, so there wasn't a huge amount to do to them, but they're just so petite and portable, and I quite like their slightly more spontaneous style. Her main diaries are much more choreographed. They're very thorough. She obviously wrote them up as a piece of work. The writing is incredibly neat. She indexes everything. My favourite bits are her weather reports. So she reports on the weather at the end of every day, and I quite like having that window onto whether it was raining in Halifax or this is down to temperatures and specific times of day as well. So that just gives them, the rest of the entries, such an immediacy. She missed nothing.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the weather back then must have been better, because the weather seemed to be very fine, very regularly in Halifax, and I'm not sure if it is always so fine. Moving on to questions. So I have a question from Maria Roberts. I'll read it out instead of asking her to unmute herself, because this actually links to questions that I did have on my list that I didn't get to. Is the chronology always clear, and is all the material always dated, or are some of the bits a bit here and there?
Well, from a conservation point of view, Anne was a dream with her diaries because she numbered every single page. So as a conservator, particularly if you have either loose material or a volume that you're going to disbind in order to repair it and then rebind it, you number it through, usually in pencil. You may or may not remove that numbering once you've repatriated everything. Anne has done it all for you, so and you check it and it's all correct. So saves you a long job. Her ephemera is a little bit more obviously random, but that had already been numbered by the archivist. So again, from a conservation point of view, it was a dream from being organised because of the number of the diaries and the way that we worked on carried out the processes. We carried out all the paper repairs at one time and then the bindings at another time. I can just quickly share a screenshot of the, I go up there. I think we have a visit in conservation on this particular day. And if I zoom in, my colleague Tracy did lots of the paper repair processes. This is Anne, more Anne, all on the bench, because the paper repairs are all done at once. So if you're working on more than, you've got to be really careful. So numbering is super important. So you don't, this is where mix-ups happen, or you panic, you've lost something. So no, it's really well organised, as most of Calderdale archives are, I actually must mention. So Calderdale is a great collection to look after, because everything's numbered. It's just brilliant.
Wonder what that says about the people of Calderdale. So I see some hands up. I saw Lucia had her hand up. If you want to unmute yourself, and then after that, Succotash. Lucia?
Yeah, hello. First of all, thank you, Shirley and Dan and all the team. I have two questions. The first one is, we have heard that a huge amount of papers beyond the diaries were found in Shibden Hall. I was wondering if all the documents in your Lister catalogue in your archive come just from Shibden Hall, or were they collected also elsewhere? I mean, where they found somewhere else, but having attendance with Shibden Hall and the Listers, they were included in this catalogue. And my second question is, were the diaries that Anne used expensive? I mean, did she have, was it an expensive investment she had to do? Had they to be made on custom made, like, or were they ready to find easy? That's it. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, kind of starting, as you say, about where the papers are from. All of the records within that collection that I brought up, the list on our online catalogue, that they are all from within the estate itself. But we do, as the Calderdale office of West Yorkshire Archive Service, we have other papers, relating to all aspects of the area. Really, our collections policy is geographical, and other collections do include other papers relating, or correlating to either the Lister family, to the estate, or to Anne herself. We've got a small series of records for other families, such as the Rawsons, or the Walkers, of course, and there's the correspondence there as well. And they are within other collections. They've come from other places, around Calderdale, but they're also listed on our online catalogue. So it is possible to see the listings there, and to see what other records might relate to Anne. Places that she visited, like the Peace Hall, we have records for, so she'll have known the life of that, and we've got records that can tell a bit of that as well. So yeah, the Shibden Hall, the Lister family collection, came from within the estate, but there are other records from other places that kind of correlate and relate either directly or geographically to places that Anne would have known. The other question was on the cost of the diaries, as you say. Yes, she actually bought them from the same binder every time. Should have been an image I brought with me. I should have thought about that one. But we do have some of the kind of receipts when they've been purchased. They're clearly, and I think Shirley would kind of attribute to say that they're very good quality volumes. So she's clearly spent quite a bit of money to make sure that what she's got is good quality. So yes, there will have been a reasonable level of expense gone into getting those diaries.
But interestingly, actually, she covered all the diaries, either herself or got somebody else to do it, in a rough brown leather. So I don't know if any of you ever covered your own school books in brown paper, wallpaper. that kind of thing. So she did exactly that. So she paid for these, you know, these lovely volumes, handmade with beautiful marbled paper, and she covered them in this sort of brown, muddy coloured calf, really, which I'm not quite sure why she would have done that, because you can see the variation in all these, in all the marbled papers. So yeah, so that's a bit of a mystery to me. So you can see here, this is all handmade, handmade marble paper. So we did preserve the brown covers where they existed, so we didn't remove them. They did cause a lot of damage to the inner, the first couple of pages. They stained, caused a lot of staining. I think I've got a picture of that somewhere. There we go. So can you see how here it's very crudely done? So she's got this lovely new, you know, everybody's has new stationery, don't they, when you start something new and you want to keep it nice, and then she sticks this sort of brown muddy leather on it. And what's happened is, because it wasn't suited to the purpose, it has stained the pages, but only on the first one or two. The paper resumes its excellent, you know, excellent condition thereafter.
Okay, I have been given a time check by our tech person, so I'm really sorry, Sabotage. I don't think we're going to get to your question now, but I see lots of hands up and lots of questions and good chat going on. So what has been suggested is that people use hashtag #AmListerSummit, and Shirley and Dan and some of their colleagues from West Yorkshire Archive, I'm sure, would perhaps be generous enough to help give some answers to the other things. I do want to thank you both for your time. I'm aware that you're giving up your Friday evening to spend time with us, which is really lovely of you. If you want to talk more about the transcription project in particular, come back in about 10 minutes, where Dan will be joined by some of our real life code breakers. And for now, I will say thank you again, and thank you so much for all of your questions.
Thank you.